This is my cardio exercise tier list. I will be ranking a ton of exercises based on how well they work for bodybuilders. And we will even go over some very underrated exercises that are surprisingly effective. The first entry in our cardio tier list is walking. Walking is the most basic and the most natural form of cardio that anyone can do. That's why it will serve as the baseline for this tier list. There are some cardio exercises that are strictly upgrading walking into a better exercise, but there is also a bunch of exercises that are strictly making it worse. So walking really is the golden standard that everything is based on. That's why we will put it into the A tier. The reason why walking is so awesome is because it's easily accessible to everyone and it puts basically zero stress on your joints, which is really valuable. But you will see that when we get to some of the future exercises. Walking itself has very few cons. The only con that is even worth mentioning is that it can be really time consuming if you start walking longer distances. But for most of the people, this is just an imaginary excuse that they use to not do anything and scroll on social media instead. But they don't want to admit it and will rather pretend that they don't have enough time. But if you are someone who is seriously short on time and wants to speed up the process a little bit, there is an upgraded version of walking that will do exactly that. I'm of course talking about rucking. If you don't know, rucking is basically walking but with added weight in your backpack. Or you can add weight in a form of a weighted vest. In the true spirit of bodybuilding, if you give a bodybuilder a way to progressively overload on something, he will do it. And that's the reason why rucking is so good. On normal walking, it's really hard to progressively overload efficiently. Sure, you can add distance for example, but at some point you will just spend the whole day walking. So rucking is just a strictly upgraded form of walking. Because you are carrying additional weight, you can get away with walking shorter distances. And that's because your body has to expend more energy to compensate for the added weight, thus burning more calories in a shorter period of time. So that's why rucking goes straight into the S tier. Now you have seen how an upgraded version of walking can look like. But now it's time to take a look at how a strictly downgraded version of walking looks like. Some of you might already suspect that I won't talk about long distance running. From the bodybuilding point of view, long distance running is the exact opposite of what you want to be doing. Long distance running is all about training your endurance. So not only that it's very time consuming, but you're actively incentivized to have less muscle mass on your frame. Just look at the physiques of the long distance runners and you will quickly understand that this is not a form of cardio that is suitable for bodybuilders. If this was like a general health cardio tier list, then sure, you're moving, your heart is happy. But we are trying to find the best cardio exercises that go hand in hand with the muscle building lifestyle. So long distance running is going into the science-based tier. But what about just regular running or jogging? Regular running is definitely better than long distance running just because the distance that you will be running will be way shorter. But I would say that it's still a little bit worse than walking. Mainly because how much stress it puts on your joints. It's just a very high impact activity. For that reason, it will go into the B tier. How about sprinting though? Sprinting fits much better with what we as bodybuilders are trying to achieve. It's an explosive exercise that makes you give it your all for just a couple of seconds, which makes it really time effective. So it should be an easy S tier, right? Well, sprinting is great, but you have to be careful as it can be really taxing, which could then negatively impact your next workout. So if you are just starting out with sprinting, don't overdo it right away, because you might be surprised how much it can mess you up. And of course, as with all of the explosive movements, the chance of you getting injured goes way up. For those reasons, I can't justify putting it into the S tier. When you add up all the pros and cons, it's pretty much on par with regular walking. So it will join walking in the very solid A tier. Now let's take a look at biking. Biking will kind of follow the same track as all the variations of walking. You can enjoy just a regular bike ride that will take you like an hour or so, and that would be the equivalent to regular walking. But then you can also do quick sprints on your bike. That is especially effective when going uphill, and that would mimic regular sprinting pretty well. And of course you could do some super long bike rides, but that's the only variation I would not really recommend. For the same reasons I would not recommend long distance running. But I don't want you to be scared to go on a longer bike ride. Just remember that anything can be harmful to you when done in excess. In these situations, it's very important that you refeed your body right after, so that you can minimize the potential muscle loss. So biking will go into the A tier. Next up we have swimming. Swimming is amazing simply because of how low impact it is. Plus it can help you increase your mobility, which I'm sure that a lot of you are struggling with. But even though swimming is very easy on your joints, you still have to be careful, especially about your shoulders, as they are very susceptible to injuries from overuse. Other than that, swimming is really good. You can go for an all-out short swim or for a normal pace longer swim. Both are absolutely fine. You simply can't go wrong with swimming. So it lands itself in the A tier. Now let's take a look at an exercise that not a lot of people do, and that is jump rope. If you are someone like me and your only experience with jumping rope is using it as a whip on your friends in elementary school, then it will be really tough for you to get the most out of the jump rope. You know, the jump rope is an amazing tool, but the problem with it is the skill curve. Because you need to learn the proper technique, otherwise you will have an absolutely miserable time. And sadly, whipping your friends with a jump rope doesn't count as having experience with the jump rope. But if you are willing to invest some time into learning the proper jump rope technique, then using jump rope as your cardio exercise of choice will be amazing. And as you get better at jumping rope, you can even start using a weighted jump rope, which will allow you to progressively overload. I'm gonna put the jump rope into the B tier, only because of the steep learning curve. But once you become good at it, it's definitely an A tier exercise. Now let's talk about some of the cardio exercises that use machines. First one of them is the elliptical. Elliptical is not a bad option if you enjoy doing it, but as with most of the machines, it depends a lot on the quality of the machine, because not all machines are created equal. I'm a big believer that when it comes to cardio machines, they will almost always be a little bit worse than its natural counterpart. That's why the elliptical will go one tier below walking, so B tier. The next cardio machine is the Stairmaster. The same logic should apply here, right? But no. Here we have a small exception where the machine is actually better than its basic counterpart. And that's simply because stairs are made for walking, not for running around on them. Imagine that you slip and you crack your coconut right open. And that's not even taking into account all the normal people that will be getting in your way. So save yourself the troubles and go with the machine that definitely reigns supreme in this case. So a well-deserved A tier it is. Next up is the classic treadmill. This is the prime example of how the real thing is better than the machine. Running or walking on a treadmill is not the same as doing the same activity outside. Not only because the treadmill is putting your body through the same exact movement pattern every time that you use it, thus leading to injuries from overuse, but you will not burn as many calories on the treadmill as if you were to do the said activity outside. Just because when you are running or walking outside, there are things such as wind resistance and most importantly, the terrain is changing as you go, which will be much easier on your joints than walking on the same exact surface day in and day out. So it goes into the C tier. Then we have one of the most underappreciated exercises ever. And that's of course for a reason. The exercise I'm talking about is burpees. If you get good at burpees, you will become an absolute beast. Granted, they are really difficult, that's why almost no one does them. But they can be done without having to leave your home, and you will not last more than a couple of minutes.
That's what she said!
So it's also really time efficient. The only negative about burpees is that it can really mess you up a lot, especially if your cardio level is really low. But for more experienced people this is absolutely incredible. As with rucking, exercises that are being heavily used in the army are really hard, but also insanely effective. I personally do rucking almost all year round, but when it gets really cold and there is a ton of snow outside, I substitute rucking with burpees, because I can do them at the comfort of my home. So it's another exercise that will turn you into an absolute cardio monster, so it deserves to go in the S tier. And here you have it, that's the cardio tier list. What you should take away from this video is that no matter how I ranked your favorite exercise, you should stick with the cardio activity that you enjoy and that you are able to stick to in the long run. Because that's the most important thing of them all. Hey, I personally chose this video right here for you. Go check it out.